Hello everybody, welcome for the conversation today, and today with me I have Dr. Asha Bajpai. She is former Dean of TISS, lawyer by profession, professor and author of various books, one of which is Access to Justice. Welcome on board, ma'am.
Thank you, Smita, for inviting me. And I'm so proud of you and your work, the great work that you're doing. And so today what I plan to do is, I plan to, there are some common issues which people face every day, especially women. And I would like to very briefly create some kind of a awareness of it. Okay. See, people think law is very complicated. Law is frightening. We should stay away from law. And some of us feel that no, we should not be aware of it at all because we don't need it. We will never need it. We are very good citizens and all those. These are the things that people generally think of law, and they consider it to be a very complicated kind of a thing. But we all should remember that ignorance of law excuses no one. You can't take that you did not know the law as a defense, especially the basic law of the land. As a citizen of this country, you should know that we have a constitution. We are a country that is governed by the rule of law, and legal awareness of basic rights is necessary in a democratic country like India, which is governed by the rule of law. See, we talk about equality of law. Law is equal for all. But if law is equal for all, awareness of law also should be there for all. Okay, there are many crucial times in our life, many common situations where you need to know the law. And so I will just briefly take a few situations. For example, I begin with, suppose you're walking on the road, when suddenly a man stops you and demands your wallet, which has your money, cards, important documents. You refuse. And on refusing, he pulls out a knife and threatens to kill you. What you do? You hand over the wallet to him, fearing for your life, and he takes it and runs away. What do you do now? The first thing that you can do is here, file an FIR. FIR is a first information report, which the police file, right? And when they receive a cognizable offense. Serious crimes like murder, rape, theft are all cognizable offense, where the police can immediately start an investigation and arrest a person without a warrant or without order from the court. There are certain other offenses like non-cognizable offense, which all of you must have heard of, NCs. These are simple offenses like fights between neighbors, fights on a tap water, something like that. But when you have a cognizable offense like how you faced when you were walking on the road, then you can file an FIR. Who can file an FIR? You yourself, whose wallet was threatened and stolen, or someone whom you confided to. For instance, you told me, I can also go and file an FIR because I know of an offense, cognizable offense that has been committed, or the person, anyone who has seen your wallet being stolen. So all of you can file an FIR. What is there in FIR? Name, addresses, what happened, when it happened, where did it happen? If you know who did it, you can name that. If you do not know, then you say, I do not know. Witnesses, if any. You're supposed to read over what has been written and sign it. You should also remember, you have a right to get a free copy of the FIR. Okay, I talked about NCs. In NCs, they just record it as a complaint in a general diary, and they advise the complainant that if you want investigation to happen, you have to take the permission from the court. So only an entry in the general diary is met. So the next issue that I would like to talk about is about the police custody and the judicial custody. See, we hear nowadays a lot of things of so-and-so was sent to police custody. Recently, there were so many cases in the news reports where we heard this one went to police custody and then this one went to judicial custody. So what's the difference between them? So police custody means that an accused stays in the lockup of a police station, or at least in the physical custody of the police. And judicial custody means that the accused is in a jail and under the custody of a magistrate. So what happens is that if you are in a police custody, you can be interrogated by the police. But in a judicial custody, the police has to take permission from the court before they interrogate you. And if you are in a police custody, within 24 hours, you're supposed to be presented before the magistrate, and then they will decide whether you get a bail or not. And the maximum period of police custody can be extended is 15 days. And judicial custody can be extended to a maximum period of 90 days for offenses with more than 10 years of imprisonment, and 60 days for all other offenses. So these are the basic differences between police custody and judicial custody. I think now when you hear on the television the difference, many of us will understand why people prefer judicial custody rather than police custody. Okay. Now, the third issue that I would like to speak on will be of an arrest of a woman, because this is something that many of us need to know. We all need to know that no women shall be arrested after sunset and before sunrise. This is the law of the land. I'll give you an example. There was this lady complainant. She was aware that only a female police officer could arrest a woman. So when a police constable, male police officer came to arrest her at night, she refused to go. And then a lady police officer was sent in the night, and she went to her in the police station, where she was mistreated in the night. Why? Yes, she was aware that she could be arrested only by a female police officer, but she was not aware that she cannot be arrested after sunset. If she had been arrested of both the things, that a female police officer can arrest her and she cannot be arrested after sunset and before sunrise, she would be aware of her rights and she would not have to face all this humiliation. And in case there is an urgency and a lady needs to be arrested in the night, then there has to be a lady police officer who has to take permission of a judicial magistrate first class, a written permission, and then only women can be arrested in the night. The third issue that I would like to talk about is about domestic violence. All of us think, or many of us think, that domestic violence is somebody's personal issue. So you hear screams and shouts in the neighboring house, but nobody does anything. Oh, it's between them. It's their private matter. No, it's no longer a private matter. It's a public issue now. And domestic violence becomes a public issue. You know, in India, as per the National Family Health Survey in 2015-16, 31.1% of married women between 15 to 19 years experienced domestic violence, at least once in their lives. This was a study, a research that was done. We have a law called Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act. And in this, physical abuse is considered, sexual abuse is considered, verbal abuse is considered, emotional abuse is considered, and economic abuse is considered. So physical abuse also, you know, it is beating, physical assault, etc. Sexual abuse means you are being sexually exploited without your consent. Verbal abuse, you're being given remarks, being made fun of. For instance, a woman is being remarked that, oh, you did not bring enough dowry, or you did not produce a child. Something like that is verbal abuse. Emotional abuse also, you are harassed and tortured so that emotionally you are, abused and exploited. Economic abuse, are not given enough things or enough basic materials to take care of yourself, like food, clothing, shelter, which you have a right, your maintenance. Okay, so this act is applicable to all women who are in a shared domestic relationship. Now in this, they have included live-in relationships also, widowed daughter-in-law included into it. You have sisters included into it, unmarried sisters. All those things are included in this domestic abuse. Now, who can complain? We all think only those people who are affected can complain. No. Anybody can complain. You can ask a police officer, or you can phone a police officer, you can phone a helpline, you can phone an NGO, you can take the help of an NGO, or you can approach a lawyer. The court can pass special orders. These orders are protection orders, residence orders, shelter orders, custody orders. And if the opposite side violates these orders, it can be arrested. It becomes a criminal matter. These are the issues that are there. So domestic violence has a lot of remedies. And what is called there is a domestic incident report. You have protection officers appointed. Many NGOs have been appointed as service providers. So you need to know that who is the protection officer in your area. You can get the list from any NGO, or you can get the list from the website of the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So these are the protection officers. You have NGOs. Many of the NGOs are service providers, so you can approach them also. So another common issue that nowadays we come across is about child sexual abuse. Many times we hear of such situations in the news and all that. I know of a session, an awareness session, which was being created on child sexual abuse. In that session, there was a 72-year-old grandmother who came to the people who had conducted the session after the session was over. And she said that for the first time in her life, somebody had told her that sexual abuse that she had experienced as a child by her own family member was not her fault. Generally, people try to blame, and even the victim feels that she is at blame, and that is why she was abused. But this revelation was so, was something so unbelievable to her that she again wanted to hear it again and again. Okay, so see, child sexual abuse is a violation of a child's body as well as a child's trust. You can have various kinds of violations: touch, non-touch, penetrative, non-penetrative, and using a child for pornographic purposes. It impacts the child very severely. Boys are also equally at risk as girls. One thing, significant thing that we must all note is that in such cases, 94% and more are close family members or people whom the child knows and trusts who are the abusers. It's very shocking. And because of this, it is very difficult to get a conviction because many times the child refuses to give evidence against the person whom she knows so well, who is so close to her. And that is why the convictions cannot be taken. And sometimes there's pressure on the child also. Oh, he's your grandfather or he's your cousin. And that is why don't say anything, he'll go to jail. So the child is too scared to say anything. It's all about power and control. Okay? As an adult, what you can do is you must encourage a child to talk about what he or she experiences. Remain calm, believe the child, trust the child, counsel the child. You can ask for a professional counselor to come in or a social worker. Get her medically examined. And if you want to file an FIR, you can file an FIR under the POXO Act. POXO Act is the Protection of Children Against Sexual Offences Act. Or you can give the child information on personal safety. There are NGOs that give this. You can also read books and give this, or you can take training on how to give this. There are certain signs that you must be aware of, or you must be careful about. Such children who are abused generally become absolutely quiet suddenly. They want to be alone. They don't want to talk to their families. They are almost lost in their own thoughts, anxious, withdrawn, and they sometimes attempt self-injury also. They also, many of them turn to thumb sucking suddenly, or they suddenly start crying, or they avoid certain individuals. They just don't want to go to them. And they start using, some of them start using sexual words. Some of them complain of irritation in their private parts, and some of them become very aggressive. So that sudden behavioral changes generally are signs that something has gone wrong somewhere. A kind of abuse nowadays of sexual abuse also is child marriage. In our country, we have a child marriage laws, Prohibition of Child Marriage Act, in which only a girl under 18 can marry and a boy under 21 can marry. But still, in spite of this act, you have nearly almost 1.5 million girls under 18 who get married in India. This marriage, because of this marriage, they lose their schooling, education, and maybe soon they become mothers, and which affects their health. They may be subject to domestic violence, and all because they are very vulnerable at that stage. So this act, the PCMA in short, as we call it, it also punishes people who have helped in arranging that child marriage, people who have attended that child marriage also. That means you are helping in promoting the child marriage. So whenever you attend a marriage, if it is a child marriage and if you are attending, it means you are encouraging it. The priest is also liable, the parents are liable, all of them, relatives, all those who have attended or who have helped in organizing this marriage are liable under this act. Another small thing that I would like to talk about is the ceremonies in Hindu marriage. There is one case of one Dr. Mukherjee. He performed 3 different ceremonies of marriage at 3 different times to one lady. What happened was, the first ceremony, he took her out in a moonlit night and said, "Oh, moon, you are my witness. I'm marrying her and she's my wife and I'm her husband." The second ceremony that he did was, he took her to a Kali temple and here they exchanged garlands and took 7 steps together. The third ceremony that he did was, he put vermilion on her head. She was extremely happy. She was so ecstatic that she felt, oh, I have gone through so many marriages. But these were all mock ceremonies. After one later, when this so-called husband married again, and she went for a case of bigamy, she could not do it because all the ceremonies that she had done were not the relevant ceremonies of her community, of her religion, of her caste. See, the marriage ceremonies among Hindus, there are particular, in the south there is something like tying the thali. In the north there is something like Saptapadi or Homa. So you must be aware of what the right ceremonies in your community is. And those ceremonies must be performed. Otherwise you can perform any other. But the relevant ceremonies must be performed. Okay? And this is the reason why many people get married again and nothing can be done. Firstly, it is the wife who doesn't complain because all her close relatives don't complain. And the second reason is this: the relevant ceremonies are not performed. One last thing that I would like to say before I close, and that is about sexual harassment at workplace. We have a Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, which includes verbal, non-verbal conduct, which the definition is very common. It's a universal definition. Unwelcome physical contact and advances, a demand or request for sexual favors. Let us go out for dinner tonight and we will consider your promotion or higher position or a training. Okay? Making sexually colored remarks. Oh, you're a girl, why are you in this engineering college? You should do home science. Showing pornography or any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. So all employees can file a complaint of sexual harassment, whether you are permanent, temporary, part-time, honorary, okay, contract worker, anybody can do it. Okay, and all employers who have more than 10 workers has to form an internal complaints committee where the women can approach, so that she need not immediately rush to the police station if she doesn't want to, and then bring it before the internal complaints committee, who will complete its inquiry within 90 days. So this is in brief some awareness issues. I hope it helps you sometimes. Thank you.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. I mean, such a detailed one and such a simple language for anybody and everybody to understand, which is so important. Otherwise, in law, what I have learned is when you start reading at the beginning, by the time you come to the bottom of the page, you've forgotten what you've started with, right? So I have always known you to simplify law. You know, I remember the year 1999 when I was learning law from you in NMIMS. I used to love attending your class because you simplified it, right? Thank you very much for that. Now, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
You
yes.
said that as a witness, or if you get to know about a sexual harassment, or if you get to know about some rape or
cognizable offense. Yeah.
Cognizable offense.
Yeah, cognizable offense.
So
Yeah.
if you get to know about a cognizable offense, can you make a complaint on behalf of a victim? Because I'll tell you why. We had a sexual harassment complaint a few years back, where the lady came back and told us that I was raped by one particular person. So we said that you will have to make a police complaint because IC has their limitations in
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So she was like, no, I cannot go to police station because my father and brother will get to know and it will be a big hoo-ha about it. Why don't you all take an action? We said, what we have to do, we'll do, but you please go to police station because it happened outside of workplace and we don't have too much of authority to figure out how did it happen, when did it happen. So she was not ready to do that. So as a IC member, can I go ahead and make a complaint on her behalf?
See, as you are aware, Smita, it's very clearly written that in case of a criminal offense or a cognizable offense of a serious nature, it goes beyond the scope of the IC. But the IC can help the victim in filing the criminal complaint. But since it's a cognizable offense, rape is a very serious cognizable offense. So in case it's a cognizable offense, if you have come to know about it, as a citizen of this country, if you know about a cognizable offense, you can inform the police. Okay, that either through telephone or any way. Now it is online complaint also can be taken. So you can inform them and an FIR can be initiated. After that, they will do the inquiry. If the victim doesn't cooperate, then nothing can be done. But if she cooperates and gives evidence, then they'll go ahead. But in the case that you have mentioned, you will file an FIR because it's a cognizable offense. And as a very responsible citizen, you will go and inform. But if she doesn't cooperate, then there will be no evidence and they will not be able to go ahead.
I want to understand my responsibility that
Yeah.
police won't shoo me away, right?
You can, that I have come to know about a cognizable offense. That's the first information. So if a murder has happened, a rape has happened, these are all serious cognizable offenses. The others that I mentioned to you were NCs, still non-serious offenses.
This is a very important aspect because till now we would think that, oh, we can't do anything because victim herself is not coming up or doesn't want us to do it. Okay, she very sternly told us, do not do it. But then we should say that we are now...
You can say it. But then if the victim will not cooperate and she refuses to talk to the police or give her version, then nothing can be done. But they will have to start the investigation because an FIR has been filed.
This was an amazing capsule session from you. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit out of it. Thank you very much for making time for this.
Yeah, thank you.